Wake up!
교통님 오셨어요?
How could you be napping at this time?
너무 피곤해요. 그런데 피곤할 법도 하지 않습니까? 저희가 1월 1일부터 7주 동안 특집으로 달려왔잖아요.
You're right.
그래서 잠깐 쉬고 있었는데 그게 그렇게 혼날 일입니까?
An embassy responded to our interview request.
어디예요?
Should I not talk about it?
어디예요?
Let me introduce the country.
해주세요.
The country of beer.
어,
The country of sausages.
알아요.
Home to the Autobahn.
정답이요.
A country that experienced a similar history of division like Korea.
정답. 독일이요, 독일.
But did you know this? It was the 140th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral relations last year.
140주년이요?
It's true.
그러면 대사님께 140년 동안 한국과 독일 관계가 어떻게 발전해 왔는지 자세히 여쭤봐야겠어요.
Do you think it'd be possible to hear about the entire 140 years in one interview?
좋은 지적이에요. 그럼 어떡하지?
How about we focus more on the past this time?
그리고 다음에 현재와 미래에 대해 인터뷰를 한 번 더 하고요?
That's right.
좋은데요? 안녕하세요, 감독님.
안녕하세요.
오늘 사실 저희가 달력 특집도 하고 또 베트남 특집도 하고 대담 촬영이 굉장히 오랜만이잖아요. 맞죠?
그렇네요.
좀 긴장됩니다. 그럼 오늘 우리가 다리가 되어 한국과 연결해 볼 국가는 따라와 보세요. 오늘 저희가 다리가 되어 연결해 볼 국가는 바로 여기! 보츠샤프트 데어 분데스 리퍼블릭 도이치란드?
Botschaft der Bundesrepublik Deutschland Residenz.
그러면 갑시다. 관저로. 추워. 빨리 가자. Ambassador.
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Welcome to the German residence.
Nice to
willkommen.
meet you.
Herzlich willkommen.
Maybe I think I should properly introduce myself. Ich heiße Nuri.
Wunderbar. Very good German. 좋습니다.
Thank you.
Please come in.
Thank you. Wow. Let's go inside.
I'm very glad to be here, and we're on top of Sombukdong, so we have a nice view, and we also want to have a showcase. We want to show a little bit of German art, so you will see a lot of paintings from German artists, also from Eastern Germany, because we want to have artists from West Germany and from what used to be Eastern Germany to show that we are now one.
It is by a German artist, but it somehow feels like a Korean traditional ink wash painting.
Many people who come in here think it's a Korean artist.
Yeah, I thought that too, because it looks like using Korean traditional ink.
Yeah. So with modern art, it's very hard to say where it comes from these days.
Wow, but I really like this one. Looking at this piece, I felt that the two countries were connected through art. Really? Shall we go out to the garden?
And this, I think, every residence is a place for encounters. It's not a place for the ambassador for my personal pleasure, although I really enjoy living here, it's a privilege. But it's a place for encounters between Germans and Koreans and others. And that's why we have this place.
Now, let's start our interview with the German ambassador. So I've heard it has been 3 months since you presented your credentials in Korea. So I always ask these questions to new ambassadors to Korea, but Is there any reason that you're posted to Korea?
I think there is a reason I wanted to come to Korea. I was happy to come here. And in my career as a diplomat, I've always dealt either with African or with Asian affairs. And I'm happy to stay in Asia. And it was my wish to come here. I was very curious about the country. I lived in China before. I had a posting in Japan before. And so I know a little bit. I always say, like, I'm new to Korea, but I'm not new to the region.
Okay, so Ambassador, let's talk about the history of our relations. So Korea and Germany established diplomatic relations in November 1883. So what kind of situation was Germany in at the time?
Well, if you look at it, Germany was actually expanding also the trade relations with Asian countries, with Japan, with Thailand, where I served before. So we had a mission that went around and tried to establish trading relations with different countries. And for that, we needed to have contracts and agreements to say what are the conditions, what are the rates of tariffs, what happens if people get into problem, etc. So it was a time where Germany was expanding into Asia, but it was not expanding mainly as a colonial power, but they would see at that time that there were a lot of markets, a lot of demand for German products, but also imports from the country. So I would say it's one of the phases of globalization.
In fact, the first contact between Koreans and Germans dates back years before the establishment of diplomatic relations. In the mid-14th century, a Goryeo minister went to the Yuan dynasty and met an envoy from the Frankish Empire. The first contact between Korean and German people occurred in the mid-17th century. In 1644, when the Crown Prince Sohyun was taken hostage by the Qing dynasty, he formed a friendship with a German priest, Johann Adam Schall von Bell. After this, there was no significant contact between the two countries until the 19th century. In 1832, German missionary Karl Gutzlaff, who was on board the British merchant ship Lord Amherst, attempted to do missionary work in Joseon, but was turned back due to the adamant refusal of Joseon officials. Gutzlaff is recorded as the first Protestant missionary to come to Joseon. In 1876, Joseon signed the Treaty of Ganghwa with Japan and opened its ports. And in 1883, Joseon signed the Korea-US Treaty. Then German minister to Japan, Max August Scipio von Brandt, who had been watching these developments, began negotiations for trade with Korean officials. In April of the same year, German Emperor Wilhelm I also sent a friendly letter hoping for a treaty to be concluded. After 3 days of negotiations, on June 30th, 1882, the Korea-Germany Treaty, consisting of 14 articles, was signed. However, due to ambiguous wording and concerns about potential infringements on extraterritoriality, the German side refused to ratify the treaty. After several rounds of renegotiations, the treaty text was revised, and finally, on November 26, 1883, the Korea-Germany Treaty of 1883 was signed. Subsequently, in November 1884, letters of ratification were exchanged, establishing diplomatic relations between the two countries.
And don't forget that Germany, unified Germany, is also a relatively young and new country. We had our national unification only in 1871. So the time that we're talking about is basically 10, 15 years after Germany became a unified nation state. Before, you had hundreds of small German states. They were trading, but they didn't have the same sort of international weight as a country as the new German Empire, it was called then.
So in 2008, a secret letter was made public. The letter was sent by Emperor Gojong to Wilhelm II, informing him of the unfairness of the Korea-Japan Treaty.
In July 1902, German Emperor Wilhelm II sent a secret letter to Emperor Gojong. This fact was made public 107 years later in 2009. As for the reason why the German emperor wrote a secret letter to the Korean emperor, some have suggested that Germany was trying to support the independence of the Korean Empire in order to keep Britain in check after the Anglo-Japanese alliance was established in early 1902. This letter, written in July 1902, was delivered to Emperor Gojong 9 months later. In his letter, Kaiser Wilhelm formally addressed Gojong as the Emperor of the Korean Empire. He also expressed hope that His Majesty Gojong will rule the Korean Empire for a long time and become a legendary figure, and that the relationship between the German Empire and the Korean Empire will become more solid in the future. In the end, he signed the letter as His Majesty's good friend. After confirming his trust through this letter, Emperor Gojong wrote a secret letter to Kaiser Wilhelm in May 1906. It is thought the secret letter was written to inform the unfairness of the Eulsa Treaty between Korea and Japan, in which Japan forcibly deprived Korea of its diplomatic sovereignty, and to request support. It is believed that this letter was not delivered to the Kaiser. The letter begins by addressing the Kaiser as His Majesty the Emperor of Germany, and states that Japan's attacks and coercion have become more severe, leading to the loss of diplomatic sovereignty and threats to independence. The letter adds, "We look forward to the friendship of His Majesty as a protector of the weak along with other powerful countries who can guarantee the independence of our country."
I think it seems the relations were very close at the time as well. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the word secret letter is wonderful. You think you've uncovered a secret, somebody goes into the archive and you have to rewrite history. It's not that easy for historians. We call them sometimes detectives of the past. So they have to now see, and a letter is important, but what we don't see is like who actually read the letter and what was the reactions. Sometimes we have written records, sometimes we don't. But it's fascinating to see that basically there was much more communication at that time than we think of today. And that people, especially the people who cared for global events, they would be quite well informed and get a lot of information.
So looking at the history of our relations, I think there were many ups and downs. So what is your overall assessment of our relations?
When we celebrated the 140 years, we said it's a very strong friendship. And of course, there were lots of changes over the periods. I will not go into all the 140 years, but I think there is an affinity and there's a strong mutual respect. Like in Germany, we respect what Korea has achieved. And I think it goes the same the other way around. And there are lots of connections. I mean, we talk about the miracle on the Han River. We talk about the miracle of the Rhine River. Emotionally, of course, being divided is something that unites us. We know what it feels like personally when families are torn apart. And we know what it feels like if we're involved in a Cold War confrontation, which is much bigger than our own countries. So I feel there's a lot of emotional affinity, also because so many Koreans have studied and lived in Germany and speak German, know our country well. And I'm very happy that this is not just a thing of the past, but also of the present, that now more and more Germans also learn Korean. They're attracted by it and they want to live here and study here and experience here. And that, I think, is a healthy relationship. It's not a one-way street.
So what would you say is the most memorable event in the relationship between our two countries?
There could be a lot, but if I want to concentrate on one thing only, it's maybe 1963. If you go back to 1963, where Korea was desperate to get foreign funding and to really get the economy going, and then there was this agreement between Germany and Korea to send nurses and miners to Germany.
In the 1960s, Korea was experiencing rising unemployment and a shortage of foreign currency due to rapid population growth and an unstable industrial structure after the Korean War. West Germany, on the other hand, was experiencing a labor shortage in a period of rapid economic growth after World War II, called the Miracle on the Rhine. The interests of Germany, which needed manpower, and Korea, which needed to address unemployment and acquire foreign currency, coincided, and for the first time in Korean history, workers were dispatched through an agreement with another country. On December 16, 1963, the 1963 recruitment agreement between Korea and Germany was signed, and on December 21st, 247 Koreans boarded a plane heading to Germany. Afterwards, nearly 8,000 miners and over 10,000 nurses were dispatched to Germany until 1977. From 1965 to 1975, the amount of money sent to Korea by miners and nurses dispatched to Germany exceeded $100 million. Their remittances accounted for nearly 2% of Korea's total exports. These data show the miners and nurses dispatched to Germany made a significant contribution to Korea's economic development.
And they helped rebuild our country also after the Second World War. So the Korean contribution to our economic miracle is there. And at the same time, while doing that, some of the remittances served to support Korea as well. So you can see there's a link between. And why do I single this out? Because I think it's emotionally very strong. The people who came there, they came to a very different Germany. They missed home. They could not call home on WhatsApp. They could not chat or have food or something. It was a very different Germany. But they persevered, and the next generation learned very good German, and they're very well integrated. And this is something like we can proud of this Korean-German community, and it shows to me about something about diversity. Now I wonder, in the future, maybe lots of people from other countries will also come to Korea, call Korea its home, learn Korean, speak Korean. They might not look like a Korean, but their heart is Korean. And diversification like this makes us stronger. Look what diversification made of the United States. It made it a very, very strong country. And anybody could be American.
After hearing the ambassador's words, I wanted to hear stories of the miners and nurses who were dispatched to Germany. So, I visited the memorial hall for workers dispatched to Germany located in Seocho-gu. There is a small exhibition hall here where photos, letters, and work clothes donated by miners and nurses sent to Germany are on display. And I was able to meet people who were dispatched to Germany in the 70s and worked as a miner and nurse.
77년 9월 달에 갔습니다. 우리 갈 때는 물론 우리나라 그때 굉장히 가난했어요. 알다시피 저희 어머니가 독자를 나서 우리 어머니가 독일 가는 거 굉장히 반대했어요. 광산 일양선 위험하잖아요. 근데 우리 어머니한테 거짓말했어. 나는 지하에 안 들어갑니다. 한 40도, 35도, 47도 더위에 그런 더위에서도 일을 하지 않으면 안 될 그런 처지니까 이야기 우리가 온 김에 열심히 일을 해야 되겠다. 그리고 고국에 외화를 보내야 되는 그 사명감 때문에 열심히 일했죠. 한 번은 버스 타고 가는데 버스에서 내다보니까 독일에 우리 집사람이 그 큰 길로 걸어가는 거예요. 다음 정거장에서 내려가지고 뛰어내려갔어요. 그쪽으로. 그래서 한참 한 200~300m 막 뛰어갔지. 뛰어가다 보니까 독일 태극기가 건물이 있더라고. 건물에. 그리고 보고 아 여기가 한국 아니고 독일이구나. 내가 그때 우리 집사람을 꿈에 본 거지. 그 연상이 그 망상이 망상.
He said that while working in Germany, he never stopped thinking about his hometown. This is Hong Young-sun. She left for Germany in November 1974.
무조건 기회가 주어지면 가는 거예요. 어디로 가요? 돈을 벌어야 되잖아요. 첫째는 돈을 벌어. 그래서 돈 벌러 갔어요. 세계를 좀 알고 싶었어요. 그런 욕심이 있었어요, 저는. 밥 먹여야지, 침대 맡겨놔야지, 돌리고 또 중환자 하면은 중환자는 아무것도 못 하잖아요. 들어야지, 뭐 기저귀 갈아줘야지 뭐 그런 해니까 저녁에 집에 들어오면 지쳐요. 지칠 대로 지쳐갖고는 근데 그 다음날 아침에 또 일하러 나가야 되잖아. 이불 뒤집어 쓰고 울고 또 나가고 그랬어요. 8년 동안은 간호조무사로 일을 했어요. 제가 그 병원에서 일을 하고 나중에는 공부를 굉장히 하고 싶어 했더랬거든요. 우리 엄마가 돈이 너무 없어갖고 대학은 너는 절대 못 보낸다고 그랬어요. 그러니까 뮌스터라는 그 대학에 갔어요. 제가 대학 가는데 거기서 전문과 과정, 전문대학 과정 마치고 방사선사가 됐어요. 죽으라고 공부를 했어요. 억적같이 그냥 사전이 걸레가 되도록 그렇게 공부를 했어요. 제가 단어 외부 다녔어요.
She married a German man and raised a family there, became a radiologist and settled in Germany. I think we could say that a new chapter opened in her life after she went to Germany.
우리가 피땀물에서 벌어서 돈 한국으로 달러를 다 보냈습니다. 거기에서 간신히 먹고 살 것만 남겨놓고 애아를 강부 간호사들이 한국을 다 보냈어요. 그 보낸 돈으로 결국은 라인간 기적을 한강 기적으로 만들었는데 이걸 우리 지금 젊은 사람들 그걸 모르는 사람 많아요. 그래서 이걸 안타까운데 우리 강부 간호사에 대한 역사적 의미를 정부에서 적극적으로 좀 홍보해줘서 좀 기념관이나 기념탑을 세워서 우리 후손들이 우리 선배들의 업적을 최소 이어지도록 정부에서 깊은 감심과 애정을 좀 가지고 있었으면 좋겠다. 이게 저희들이 바람입니다.
The miners and nurses dispatched to Germany contributed greatly to Korea's industrialization. 기억하시는 분 있으세요?
지금 뭐 구텐탁, 비기데스 이네, 글리가우프.
글리가우프.
네, 우리 글리가우프는 우리 회원들이 우리끼리 만나면 지금도 글리가우프
그렇게 인사하세요?
이렇게 인사를 해요. 우리 강부들끼리는.
Perhaps the reason why Korea and Germany have such good relations as they do now is because Korean miners and nurses served as a bridge for Korea and Germany's friendship. There is one common thing that Korea and Germany share, and it's the country's division. So, as a country that experienced division and unification, how does Germany view the current situation on the Korean peninsula?
Well, we see with the tensions with a lot of worry, and these days the tensions have been significantly higher than before and very aggressive rhetoric. But we also see very much the suffering of the people in North Korea, and I think one must make a clear distinction between the government and those in power and the individual people of North Korea who are mostly the victims of a very totalitarian system. Now, if I'm often asked about the parallels and the differences, and the parallels are quite obvious: a country that's divided, families that's divided, people who share a common history suddenly are cut apart. But there are some important differences also. In Germany, we never had a civil war. We were very fortunate. So, and we always, we managed to much earlier to open the doors for people-to-people contacts. West Germans then could visit East Germany. East Germans at the later stages, older East Germans could also visit West Germany for family visits. So the people-to-people contacts were much, much stronger than they are between the two Koreas. And this was important to keep the contact alive, to keep a sense of like what's happening in the other country alive. And at one point when the opening was there, to have a chance to peacefully reunite, because we never also treated East Germans as our enemies. We knew there was a political tension between two systems, but we made sure that the normal East German was never our enemy.
So are you also an ambassador to North Korea?
No, I'm not. We have our own embassy in North Korea. Germany inherited, so to speak, the North Korean embassy that was in East Germany after reunification. And East Germany, socialist East Germany, had a big embassy in Pyongyang. And we decided to keep that embassy and to keep it open.
So what kind of advice would you like to give to Korean government regarding the Korean Peninsula issue?
Dialogue is in the DNA of a diplomat. We would never give up to try and talk to the other side, even if you have enormous differences. So, for instance, even in the height of the Cold War, we tried to keep the channels of communication open with East Germany. Even dialogue doesn't mean you agree with somebody else. You just have to be careful, but it's better than not talking to each other. So there's always something going in favor of a dialogue. But mind you, also, East Germany never threatened to use nuclear weapons on West Germany, so there's a different level of threat here.
So I heard that there was a special exhibition commemorating the 140th anniversary of our diplomatic relations at Dondokjeon Hall. So what kind of exhibition was it?
Well, what we tried to do is to sort of give a glimpse of these 140 years. So we looked a little bit in the past. We had some pieces to, some exhibition pieces and some explanatory videos, others.
This is Deoksugung Palace, located in Junggu. There is a building called Dondokjeon Hall inside Deoksugung Palace. Last year, a special exhibition commemorating the 140th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Korea and Germany was held here. Dondokjeon is a Western-style guest house built within the palace for ceremonies. Built in the early 1900s, numerous banquets were held in this building. And it hosted many diplomatic envoys. The building, which was demolished by the Japanese, was restored in September 2023.
Und wir sind stolz und sehr dankbar, dass wir als erste Botschaft nach der Wiedereröffnung hier eine gemeinsame Veranstaltung machen dürfen. Wenn Sie hier jetzt durchgehen, werden Sie viel über die Vergangenheit sehen, können sich einige Gedanken über die Gegenwart machen. Aber das Wichtigste für uns ist, dass wir gemeinsam etwas auch in die Zukunft schauen.
한국과 독일의 공공의고 발전을 위하여 화이팅! 감사합니다.
In this exhibition, visitors could see the history from 1883, when Korea and Germany signed the Treaty for Trade, Friendship and Shipping, to the present, through various photos, video materials, and artifact reproductions. It was an exhibition that clearly demonstrated the long-standing friendship between Korea and Germany. This is Future Hall. Each time visitors enter the areas they would like to see the two countries cooperate in, a new piece of art is created. Through this exhibition, I was able to learn more about Korea and Germany's past and build up anticipation for the future that both countries will build in the future.
What we are quite proud of is that we try to create a room for the future. So we asked all the people who came to the exhibition, what are their dreams, what are their hopes for the future of Korean-German relations? And I think that was the most interesting part of the exhibition.
Are there any events you'd like to see in the relationship between the two countries during your tenure here?
We just had this whole sort of firework of activities for 140 years, but I would like to actually follow up a lot in a couple of areas. One is sustainability, because I think Germany and Korea are highly industrialized countries. And if we can show to the world that you can be highly industrialized, but at the same time very energy efficient and go for and leave fossil fuels behind you, that would be a strong signal to the rest of the world. Number two is to maintain an open trading system, because we don't sit on very big resources. Our wealth, Germany's wealth, Korea's wealth, is built on access to markets, to knowledge, to sell and buy goods internationally. And I think that's important to keep this open. And number 3, I talked about the miracle at the Han River and the Rhine River. And maybe in the first decades of rebuilding our countries after the destructions that happened before, the focus is on material well-being. But maybe we have to follow on the material well-being also and pay more attention to the social factors around it. You can be wealthy but not very happy, and we have to make sure that we take most of the people along with social measures as well and take care for the environment. So that would be a second miracle of the Han and the Rhine River, to be wealthy and have a better balance between your work life and your family life, to ask yourself the question, yes, we have the wealth, but what for, and how do we distribute the wealth? How do we help the ones who are weaker? I think we can learn a lot from each other and promote and exchange ideas about this.
During my conversation with the ambassador, I was able to confirm the close relationship that the two countries have built over 140 years. What happens each day accumulates to become history. Based on the shared history between the two sides, I hope that Korea and Germany will build cooperation at a higher level in the future. Five days before the broadcast, there was news related to Korea and Germany. 이것과 관련해서 독일 대사관 측의 입장이 궁금하지 않나요?
I am.
그럼 대사관 측에 연락을 해보는 게 어때요?
Sounds good.
그럼 지금 메일을 한번 써봅시다.
Do you think we'll get a response before the program airs?
방송 전에 답장이 오면 방송에 같이 내보내면 되잖아요. 만약에 방송 이후에 답장이 오면 그 이후에 전달할 수 있는 방법을 생각해 보면 되고.
If we get a reply, we'll make sure to deliver it to you later.
It's a stamp.
In your name in Korean.
Oh, wonderful.
So you can use this stamp instead of signature here.
Okay, wonderful. Should have said I want to achieve also that I'm able to speak Korean when I'm gone.
Maybe next time you can do interview in Korean.
I envy